As an accountant, I've seen numerous money mistakes that people fall into. Today, I want to share with you 5 common mistakes that people make and how you can avoid them. The first one is not having a budget. And by not having a budget, you don't know where you're at money-wise. A budget can be as simple as knowing what your ins are and what your outs are and what the difference is. And until you know what that difference is, you can't make any plans for the future, such as saving or investing. What typically happens, people just have income coming in, expenses going out, and they don't really ever know, does this actually even cover my bills? If your income is $1,000 but your expenses are $1,200, your account's just going to continue to go backwards. You're never going to get ahead. And that's where people go wrong. So until you sit down and go, what's coming in, what's going out, you're never going to know whether you're actually going to be able to achieve the goals that you've set, which we're going to talk about later on in this video. I do find typically when people are struggling, they start to ignore this and they just want to pretend it's not happening, but that's not going to make it go away. If your budget is broken, you need to work out a way to fix it. You need to either increase your income or cut your expenses so that that net difference turns into a positive, so then you can start saving and investing. But until you actually know where you're at, that's never going to happen. Now, ideally, you're looking at this on a regular basis, so you're updating your budget and seeing how you go against that. But at least at a starting point, go and have an initial budget. Simply go through your bank statement, look at all your incomings, look at all your outgoings, write all that down, and just have an idea of where you're at money-wise. Number 2 is not saving for emergencies. Emergencies come up whether we like it or not, whether that's a broken down car or whether it's repairs that need to happen to your home. These things happen, and they happen at really unexpected times. In fact, last year we hit a kangaroo while driving, and in the same week we had a leak in our bathroom. Now this obviously was quite an expensive issue to fix, but because we had emergency savings, the money side of it wasn't a stress. And this is the whole point of having emergency funds, is to take the stress of money out of emergency situations. Emergency situations are normally stressful enough, let alone trying to worry about where you're going to pay for them from. Now you need to have access to emergency funds. It's no good if you've got lots of equity tied up in your home or you've got lots of shares that you don't want to sell. They're not emergency funds because you can't access them. You need access to cash and you need access to that fast. And ideally, you don't want to be selling things to fund your emergency fund at the time of the emergency. Now, if you don't have the funds, what happens? You either head to credit card debt or you start asking people to borrow money. And these are paths you don't want to go down. Credit card debt, as we're going to talk about later in this video, is expensive and you don't want to be owing money to family and friends and not knowing how you're going to pay that back. So by simply having some form of emergency fund, and everyone's emergency fund will be different in size, but it keeps you at least a little bit less stressed when an emergency hits. Now, before I talk about number 3, I've set the goal this year to hit 10,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, and I can't do it without your help. We're just short of 4,000 subscribers at the moment, so we've still got a long way to go, but I'm trying to put out quality videos every single week to help you guys be better with your money, your taxes, your business, so I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and help me achieve my goal. Number 3 is not paying off high interest debt. And as we've just talked about there, when people have things go wrong, where do they turn typically? Things like credit cards. Credit cards at the moment have an average interest rate of around 20%. This is a lot higher than home loans that sit around the 6% mark. So you can see, by taking on this high interest debt, you're going to be paying a lot more interest than you are compared to some of your other loans. Now, when it comes to interest rates, we typically have credit cards right at the top. You then have things like personal loans, then car loans, then home loans. Now, a lot of people will advise, go and pay off the high interest debt first, because this is what's impacting you the most when it comes to interest paid. So if you can avoid taking on the high debt in the first place, that's great. But if it already exists, you want to look at how can I get that down as quick as possible because I'm paying large amounts of interest on those funds. Now the trick is, there's no point paying down your credit card to zero and then going and putting another $5,000 on it. You want to be able to pay down the credit card and then also have a plan in place so you don't need to keep taking on high interest debt. Now there are times where people will use credit cards for reward cycling, etc. But you want to make sure that you're not then paying the interest, because the interest rates on things like credit cards are incredibly high. And at the end of the day, if you can finance it yourself without having to do this, you're in a much better overall financial position. Number 4 is not planning for the future. And there's multiple things you may want to do in the future, whether it's saving for a particular goal such as a holiday, or you want to buy a house, or maybe you're looking to invest for your future so you can retire a bit earlier. No matter what your goal is, you want to have a plan on how you're going to get there. A lot of people go, I want to buy a house. And they continue to work and they continue to just run their normal budget, but they have no plan on how they're actually going to save this deposit for this house. They're just expecting it will happen one day. And the reality is, large purchases or large holidays aren't going to just happen in one pay cycle. They're going to happen over a number of pay cycles where you're continually putting money away, saving for a larger goal. And this only happens by actually putting a plan in place to achieve this. A lot of people are just assuming it's going to happen, and then in 5 years' time they're disappointed and go, well, I never achieved what I wanted. But it's because they never put a plan in place to achieve those goals. Obviously, to do this, you need to nail that first step we talked about of having a budget, and then making sure that some of those excess funds are being directed to savings or investing or whatever your goal is. And the fifth money mistake that beginners make is they're not looking to grow their income. There is only so much you can cut. I've talked about this so many times on this channel, is that there is only so many expenses you can cut, but the potential to grow your income is technically unlimited. Now, it is not easy. I'm not here to say just go and up your income by 20 grand. I understand that that's not easy, but you do have options, especially in today's society, where we've been able to use the internet to create different wealth opportunities for ourselves. So whether you're just looking to get an increase at work and maybe asking for a pay rise, or maybe you're going to start a side hustle, or maybe you're looking to invest so that you're going to get some passive income, there's multiple ways that you can look to grow your income. And I think it should always be front of mind of how can I increase my income so I can increase my opportunities to achieve those goals that we talked about previously. Now, obviously, you want to make sure you've cut the expenses that you can. But if you can increase your income by $100, that's going to be much easier than trying to cut another $100 expenses if you've already done that task. Now, I mentioned budgets at the start of this video, and in this upcoming video, I talk about one key habit that is destroying a lot of budgets, but I give you the trick on how you can fix that.